Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Sophisticated Sunday. I'm going to be your reader for today, Negzo, and this is my host,
Osun Funke.
What's your quote?
I am not to be fucked with.
And my quote is, if you don't do it, you can't misconstrue it, and if you don't say it, you can't replay it. But in this week's episode, we have a very special guest that we're just going to go ahead and introduce right now.
Well, hello.
We're all here.
Hi.
It's Peach Blossom.
Hi, everybody.
How y'all doing out there? Make sure you got to look at the camera.
Oh, God. Hi.
That's the main camera.
That's the main camera.
The main
okay.
camera. Uh-huh.
Right.
Okay, I should know this.
Mm-hmm.
I should definitely know this. Hi, everybody.
All right, so anyway, how y'all doing? Everybody's out there that's ready to see her and say hey and book readings. So with that being said, this is a full staff of Black Spectrum Network. No one else is employed here. You got to be a cool kid to sit with us.
Absolutely.
Make sure that you purchase a private psychic reading or a private ancestral reading, private whatever, with any of us at www.blackspectrumnetwork.com. We are going to be using today's episode to talk to you all about some of our experiences. You can think of this as kind of like a frequently asked questions for African spiritual practitioners. So I'm going to get all of you all to do three things. The first thing that I'm going to speak about a scenario, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to tell me how important is this scenario for a client to how important is this question for a client to ask. If a client asks this question, how important is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Sorry. Okay. So after that, I want you to then explain to me how you would address it, and if you provide any service that can fix this particular
issue.
Right.
Okay.
And how you would do it. Okay?
Okay.
This is good.
All right. So hit the skull emoji, the peach emoji, and the sunflower emoji.
Okay.
For the entire cast. Okay. So a client comes to you not knowing how to work with their ancestors on a scale of 1 to 10.
10 being the highest.
10 being the highest,
okay.
And 1 being the lowest. How important that?
7.
A 7.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a 10. It is, oh my God, that is that's your foundation. That's your first line of defense. So.
And you gave it a 7?
I gave it a 7 only because your ancestors are going to be with you regardless. They're watching over us. They're walking with us. They're influencing energies around us, even when we're not aware of it. So it's very important, but you're not like out of the game if you're not working with your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of the game if you're doing hoodoo and you're not working with them.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, it is very important. Like, I'm going to immediately, are you working with the ancestors? No. Okay, so let's get started.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because without them, it's almost, I won't say it's impossible, but it's almost impossible to get things manifested. Or, how can you ask your ancestors to bless you when they're on the other side broke? They're hungry,
bankrupt, and starving,
and all of that. And let's not get into all of that. But that's a definite 10 for me. I'm gonna push that heavy.
So it's pretty fucking important.
It is very important.
I would give it a 10 as well, because. Okay. Well, I mean, the channel started with that particular message. One of the first things that everybody was wanting to know was how, what I was coming on here to say was like, work with your ancestors. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people on YouTube that were saying that. But that's the goal of Black Spectrum Network, was to put us back in contact with our ancestry, given that an African diasporic network, Black Spectrum Network, it's the idea that we're disconnected. We now need to reconnect. It's a network. But how do you all address that issue? What do you all tell a client? What do you suggest?
Well, the first thing, which is why I love the ancestral reading that we offer on Black Spectrum Network, because what it does is it makes the client aware of what the ancestors are concerned with in their life at this particular moment, in this season. So once we have that information, then we can fast forward and say, okay, how do the ancestors want to work with you? How do they want your altar to be set up? What types of rituals or regimen do they want you to engage in order to tap into that energy?
Right.
How are you going to allow them to bless you?
Right.
And so that's all very, very important.
I agree. And then it's also important because we are not just speaking to any ancestors. We're speaking to your ancestors.
That's right.
My ancestors might want something completely different than what your ancestors want. And so it's very important that we cater to your ancestors' wants and needs so that they can bless you in your life. So, yeah, the ancestral life path reading.
And we tell you how to construct your altar.
Yes.
We will go into a detailed analytical. We would go into a detailed analysis about your genealogy, about the strength of your genealogy, what the ancestors have done in the past, how you're going to continue that work, build on it, or start something new. We also give you a spiritual regimen. We give you a specific spiritual bath that's uniquely designed to your ashe to help cleanse your energy, purify your energy, and make sure that you're walking along the path that your ancestors assigned for you. So let's say a client comes to you and they say, I have a generational curse on me, on my family. On a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm going to give that a 5, only because I don't think that most people are aware of generational curses. They don't have the ability themselves to diagnose that. And, I'm suspicious of that type of information.
I would definitely say maybe like a 3 or a 4 because I have to go in and look. I can't just go off
take somebody's word for it.
I can't just take your word for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not calling you ignorant, but you might not know, what you're talking about. Maybe what's happening to you is not a generational curse. Maybe it's something else. So I would like to dissect that, but I would say about a 3 or a 4. I mean, yeah. If it really is a generational curse, then that's different. But I would like to look into it, and then let's diagnose you, with the generational curse. I wouldn't just claim that.
I'm gonna give it a low number too. A low number. I don't know. I don't know what number I picked, but it definitely ain't. It ain't above a 6.
I know that's right.
But I say that because I've been doing this for years, and I very, very rarely do I find that it's a generational curse blocking you from getting something done.
Yes.
Yes. I do think that but I do want to say this, when you're initiating, there are generational things that you're going to have to address. I feel like it will come up in your initiation and you'll get those things addressed.
They'll be revealed to you.
All right.
But I don't feel although generational curses are real, I think that people are ascribing too much power or holding them too accountable for things that they didn't do in your life.
Right.
But how do we address that?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to actually diagnose it. So is this real? Do you have a generational curse? And what areas of your life is it affecting? Once we figure that out, then we can go about trying to figure out how to mitigate the damage of that generational curse. Is there an appeasement that can be done? Is it just a correction of behavior that's necessary? You got to dig in, and every case is different.
Yes, every case is different. Your ancestors might want an offering. They might want you to pray more. They might want you to, you never know. So you can't just diagnose yourself and say, oh, I got a generational curse. Well, you never know. And if it is, let's fix it. And that's when you would call us.
Absolutely.
And you can call us book a reading. Book a reading. That's the best. Book a reading. Okay. Because a lot of you are going to be in the comments like, well, does this count as a generational curse? Does this count as a generational curse? I saw someone in the comments asking, could mental illness be a generational curse? It could be, but mental illness, I can also identify that in somebody's natal chart.
That's very true.
Your parents had you at the wrong time. On the wrong day.
Well,
it's the truth. So you may need to get an astrology reading. But sometimes you do need to see. Well, let's move. Let's talk about mental illness more specifically.
Okay.
A client calls y'all and says that they're depressed. On a scale of 1 to 10.
That's not very high for me. Because a lot of times, now, if we're not talking about a clinical depression, if we're not talking about a an imbalance, a chemical imbalance in the brain. If we're just talking about feelings of melancholy or lack of motivation, those are choices. Okay, feelings are actually a choice. So we have to make the distinction between if we're talking about something that's medical, that's an actual chemical imbalance, or are we talking about just being at a kind of a funky place in one's journey? Once I make that distinction, then I know what to do. If it's just your feelings, feelings are a choice. Feelings can change. That's a beautiful thing about them. There's lots of things that we can do to address that. Something as simple as a spiritual bath can address melancholy and lack of motivation, and feelings of depression.
Well, and then I'll also say, again, is it depression or is it just stagnant? Are you just stuck
Right.
in the same place?
Yeah.
Is it that you feel like you're stuck and you cannot move forward? I was telling Exo the other week, it's like moving in jello and you can never get out. Is that what it is? Because if that's what it is, then you would book a reading with me and I'll go, okay, well, I see that you're stagnant. I can give you a spiritual bath. I do have an anti-depression bath to get you out of that funk, to move the stagnant energy. I have talked to people who are actually mentally ill, like diagnosed, there's something going wrong. And even then, we still can help in some way.
Yeah.
If you are clinically depressed with depression, definitely go to a medical doctor. But if you're feeling stagnant, you cannot move, nothing is going right, then I think you should call us as well. But as far as the ranking of importance, because it's something that can be fixed, well, I won't say easily, but I'll say about a 3 or 4. I'd have to keep it at that level because we can fix it.
The beautiful thing about spirituality, especially African spirituality, and of course I'm going to lean on Ifa because that's what I know and that's what I practice. One of the tenets of a reading with Ifa is the performance section, where you are required to do work to fix your issues. So we're not going to just tell you what's going wrong. We're not going to just tell you what the problem is. We're going to tell you what to do to fix it.
Right.
And I think that's what people need to understand is that you have solutions. There's a solution for everything. You don't have to just suffer. That is a remnant of Christianity and slavery that we need to get rid of. We need to cancel, correct, and delete that. You do not have to suffer. You don't have to suffer through this life and wait for heaven for everything to be fixed.
Right.
There are means to improve your station in life.
Yes, I definitely agree. That has been taught with Christianity, long suffering, and I'm here to tell you, we don't have to do that anymore.
Suffer no more.
No, we don't have to suffer anymore.
No, you can just call us and we will help end that suffering. Now, I think it's also very low as well, because people confuse depression with having a depressive mood. Now, there's 2 different things. Now, I've slept with people who've had depression. Okay, I know what depression is. But there are people that have depressive moods. I had a client that called me within the past 3 weeks and they were crying on the phone their entire reading over this girl that they had been in this relationship with. And I called them the day prior saying, I couldn't do your reading today. Can I reschedule? We did it the next day. And well, they had an issue with me rescheduling because they were like, I'm depressed. Like I paid for this reading because I need my answers and I'm hoping that you're gonna cure my depression. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I get back to you. And then the first thing that comes out of their mouth, can you tell me what's up with my girlfriend? We're not talking right now. And I'm like, bitch, this is what you got your ass into depression. This is depression. A 2, motherfucker.
I mean,
and don't call me again.
oh, I thought you were.
I'm not gay no more.
Oh, okay.
But don't call me because it's a 2.
Okay.
I mean, it was a depressive mood.
It
you know,
was.
just get over it. Don't spend your money.
Well, so let me just insert here.
Call me.
The understanding that people need to have is that you have the ability to make real and measurable changes in your reality. You have that ability, either through your own work, okay, it requires a certain level of mastery and understanding, or you're able to go to a professional, a priest or a priestess, someone who is able to manipulate energies and correct those issues for you.
Right.
You don't have to suffer through it. So knowing that there is a solution is half the battle.
I agree.
is half the battle.
I agree.
And so working with your ancestors is the beginning of that, because you can start taking those problems to a higher source. You can start taking those problems to somebody who can help.
Hallelujah. Work with your ancestors.
Okay. So a client calls you and says that a family member has put a hex or a curse on them.
How do you know?
Exactly.
It's a 2. It's a 2. How do you know?
1.5. Because you don't know.
You
don't know. I mean, but that's why you would book a reading with us, so that we can find out and clarify and give you some clarity on what's really going on. Because it might not be your sister. It might be your coworker. It might be, I don't know, your next door neighbor. How do you know?
Yeah.
That's what I would want to know.
I get that a lot. A lot of people, call and they're in a panic because they feel like someone's working black magic on them. They feel like someone has juju'd them, like someone is praying against them, or maybe someone has, commissioned brujeria against them or whatever. I find that to be the case in maybe 20% of the cases. A lot of times, and we've discussed this before, what I see most often is self-hexing. What I see most often are thought patterns that are rooted in fear. And, that's what I see.
I would say to address, in me addressing that particular issue, it is very low on the scale.
Yeah.
It is very low on the scale. I don't typically even entertain that sort of, because that's never what it is. Anytime I've investigated into it, it never shows up that somebody has hexed you. Now, what I can say is that for the people that have paranoia, like you're paranoid about somebody casting Wanga on you or whatever, I would say to you, come to us not asking us to diagnose or fix a problem that's not even there, but asking us how can you strengthen yourself, or how can you learn how to better protect yourself should that issue come up. Too many people focus on where they're vulnerable and they don't focus on how they can strengthen themselves.
Yeah, protection is far more valuable than weaponization.
Yes.
It's far more valuable for you to be protected and for you to stand or sit in a position of power than it is for you to have all these warriors and all these tools and all these ways to fuck people up. So yeah, I lean towards the protection. I lean towards making sure that you are aware of what your vulnerabilities are, that you are addressing those through work with the ancestors, through work with the Orisha, through the perfection of your behavior, and then, do your worst, enemies. Do your worst, because if you are walking with your ancestors and you walking with the Orisha, and you know which Orisha are around you and what energy you're able to tap into and to utilize on your behalf, you really don't have a whole lot to worry about.
Baby, you're not messing with me, okay? My ancestors got my back. I have seen them move, honey, and they will get you together quickly. I stress to you, I beg of you, please work with your ancestors, and if you don't know how, you definitely need to book that Ancestral Life Path reading.
Yeah.
We will help you out.
Someone comes to you all and says, this deity came to me in a dream.
I want to hear all about the dream. I want to hear all about it.
Please, in detail.
I love it because, that's not a ridiculous thing to happen. But what I need people to
understand. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is that deity coming to them in a dream?
How important is it? I'm going to say it's a 5, because it could be a turning point for a person. I think it could be a turning point. I think that if you are aware of a particular energy, if you're having visitation from a particular energy, or if it's just that energy is on your consciousness for whatever reason, I think that's pretty important. And let's investigate that. If you believe that Osun has come to you, then let's talk about it. What was the experience that you had? What did she say? What are you going through at this point in your life that would make you even aware of that energy? Are you crying out for her, or is she coming to you? Because really, what I think it is most often is that our DNA and our cells have memory. Okay, our DNA has memory, and so when we're lacking things, when things are out of whack, on a subconscious level, or with our Ori, which is the higher self, in the Ifa school of thought, we are searching and looking for a complementary energy to strengthen us. Okay, so you may not even be aware of what Osun is. You may not even be aware of who Shango is, for example. But that energetic footprint is in your DNA. Okay, you know what it is because your ancestors knew what it was. And so you're receiving messages from your Ori to let you know there's a source that you need to tap into. There's a power locked inside of you that you need to access that's going to help you at this particular moment, which is why our mind, if we believe that our dreams are a product of the mind, which is an organ, okay? If our mind is giving us these visions and having us to have these experiences, I believe it's because there's something missing, and our higher self knows that all we need to do is tap in on a physical level to bring that energy forth.
I have to say that I do agree. But what would I rank it?
So fuel my fire, take me higher, I'll be your liar too. Cause when we're here, there's nothing better than the skyline